Welcome to Community Connections, brought to you by the Greater Kanawha Valley Foundation. My name is Jane Powell. We're going to have some fun today. We are going to talk about an organization that I love, and I know you will too. Welcome to the show, Dawn Miller.
Thank you, Jane.
Dawn, you are the Executive Director of Read Aloud, West Virginia. So I want you to tell us about it. And more importantly, it covers the whole state, right?
Right.
Which is something I forget. But tell us a little bit, give us a big overview of Read Aloud.
Great. Okay, so what I say in orientations for new readers is my real claim to fame is I have been a Read Aloud reader for about 30 years.
Wow.
And then moved on to the staff, which is a real honor and a whole new level of enjoying it. But Read Aloud West Virginia is a homegrown West Virginia organization. And it started in Kanawha County and then spread to other counties. We have really strong chapters in places like Jackson and Berkeley and Fayette and probably 30 really good solid chapters around the state, and then activity in another 30 or 40 counties. So the activity around the state is not all even. We're not as robust in some counties as others.
Right.
But we'll get to all 55 in that robust way eventually. And we organize volunteers and match them with teachers, and then those volunteers go into the teacher's classroom each week, every week at the appointed time, and read to kids for fun, just for fun, because that's our mission, to motivate kids to read for fun.
So let's talk about that a little bit. Why is it important to read for fun?
Amazing things happen when kids, or adults for that matter, read for pleasure. So you think about education and you think about the things you have to do, and those are all important, lessons and your assigned reading and so on.
Right.
But it turns out that, and people have known this for decades, they observed that when kids who are read to at home and kids who read for pleasure on their own time, when they get to school, they are much better positioned to pick up the lessons and understand the lessons that they're taught at school. Nate famously measured this when they surveyed fourth graders and they asked the fourth graders how much they read at home or how much they read for pleasure. It completely correlated with their scores. So the kids who read for fun on their own time did better on the reading test when they took the test. And for a long time, people knew, well, there's a correlation there, so it must be good for you. In fact, Read Aloud is more or less based on that. We know it's good for kids, so we'll do it. But increasingly, the brain science is catching up to what we've been able to observe sort of outside the body. And increasingly, there are a number of cognitive scientists and brain scientists who can actually measure. They scan brains, they look at connections, they look at networks forming in the brain. And when we read to kids, sing songs with them, rhyme words with them, and then read to them even after they can read on their own, we do a number of things. We build vocabulary words. We literally stimulate connections in the brain that are then used when the children are reading on their own. We model that good behavior. We associate those warm, fuzzy feelings with that activity, so the child is more likely to do it on their own. There's all sorts of things going on, sort of at the the brain cell level as well as outside in this social level.
And I know we're talking about kids, but even in my house today, I read out loud to people, and I may be reading from the newspaper, I may be reading from a magazine. I'm like, listen to this.
Right.
And I start reading the article. So it's a lifelong habit, a good one.
Right, and it's social. It's very interesting that you point that out, because on the one hand, reading to yourself is a solitary activity. You need quiet, you're sort of in there with your thoughts and the author, and it is a solitary activity. There's a wonderful author named Marianne Wolfe. She's written a couple of really good books. One is called Proust and the Squid, and then the next one is called Reader Come Home. And she very articulately points out some of the habits of readers. And one of the things we do as readers is when we have found something we enjoy, we want to tell our friends about it. So when you bump into a friend, one of the things you talk about is, were you reading any good books lately? And at Read Aloud, we've noticed this, so that one of the things we try to create is an environment where children increasingly develop that habit themselves. There's a social aspect to reading that those of us who learned to read and fell in the habit when we were kids maybe don't even notice anymore. Right. And we try and make that more explicit for students. We create that excitement so that they're asking us about books, They're learning about books from their volunteer reader. We're
Yeah.
distributing books. That's another whole aspect of
Well,
something
and
we do.
let's just talk about this distributing fun books.
Okay.
I want to know about book bundles.
Oh, this is
Because I just love the title.
I could talk about this all day. Okay. So, you want the long version or the short version?
Why not the fun version? Yeah.
Okay. So a couple of years ago, when I think schools were still kind of closed down, I was sorting books and listening to the Leaders of Literacy podcast, which was a podcast that was produced by the State Department of Education, the June Harless Center, some really smart people in those places. They interviewed experts. Anyway, I'm listening to this while I'm sorting books, because Read Aloud has distributed books forever. It's the second main thing we do. And we emphasize choice because choice is important. Choice is motivating. Different research on that. But we tend to distribute one at a time, a couple at a time, a lot of fiction, some nonfiction. We lay the books out and the children choose, and that's good. That's great. We still do that. But I was listening to this podcast where the person was talking about when you give children multiple books on the same subject, and the children are passionate about that subject, and on top of that, the books need to range from easy to hard. When you do that, the child's reading proficiency in that subject increases, and increases faster than if you gave the child 5 books on different subjects all at their reading level. Now, I threw a lot at you there, but let me unpack this a little bit.
Okay.
Go ahead. You have a question?
Well, only because I have a little insider knowledge here that there's a hip-hop bundle. I mean, come on.
Okay, so here's what we did. So we said 4 times faster. Another version of that is the children's reading proficiency, when you distribute books that way, grows 4 times faster than other methods. So we're already emphasizing choice, right? We lay out the books and the kids take a book.
Right.
Great. This time, we gave the kids a paper and said, what subject would you most enjoy? And some kids choose cats, and some kids choose horror stories, and some kids choose hip-hop, and some say black culture. A lot say football, a lot say basketball, some say hunting, some say fishing.
Yeah.
So then we go and we put together a bundle of books on that subject. And the books range from easy, and you genuinely want books that might be below that child's reading level. And you genuinely want books that are a little above that child's reading level. Because the easy reading still is good practice, and they solidify knowledge, they build confidence, and they take that proficiency then into the next book and the next book. And what we've discovered is we are accustomed at Read Aloud. We are accustomed to kids being excited when we give them books. We always have a nice experience. Every volunteer who has worked on book bundles with their classroom has come back and said some version of the same thing. And they always say this: I've never seen anything like this. The kids were so excited. I've never seen anything like this.
Okay.
The kids were over the moon. These are exact quotes. It was like Christmas morning. We have a principal at Sharon Dawes who told me just not long ago she has a student who is never interested in anything. He's never excited about anything at school, doesn't particularly engage or participate. This child asked for a certain subject, got these 5 books, and she said he's genuinely excited about these books.
Aww.
I've never seen this student excited about anything. And that's one student. I had a report from another county just last week where, unbidden, a student said, I never liked to read. Let me get the quote right. I never liked books, but now I do. And they were 5 books that were relevant to that child and accessible. Because if you're struggling, or even if you're not struggling, maybe you're just tired one day, if there's an easy book in there, there's one you can do. There's one you can read. And if it's about something you care about and you're interested in or you're curious about, then it is satisfying that hunger and hopefully raising more questions, leading you into the next book. And I have seen skills listed, like on instructional goals, things that students are supposed to be able to do by a certain grade. One of the things is that we're all supposed to be able to do is compare texts on the same subject. We notice the differences. When a student notices this book contradicts this book, that's a good thing. That is
Yeah.
something you want to be able to do. When they notice that they confirm each other, that's a good thing. And it's that sense of discovery is very stimulating and leads the kids back to the books over and over again. So we are having a good time with these book bundles. They are a lot of work.
And you
But
do
the
those,
payoff.
do you do book bundles just in this county? Are they statewide? Is it expanding?
We are doing them statewide. They are expanding because they are fairly labor intensive.
Yeah.
And time, they take a little time too to put these together in a thoughtful way. We can't just offer them to anybody who wants them. We offer them to the classrooms where we have readers, and then a couple of special situations where we've gotten particular grant money to do in certain grades in certain places. So we try and keep them flowing in. We keep the requests flowing in, a classroom or two a week so that we can keep up with them. Last year, I will just tell you, we did a little over 400 bundles.
Wow.
Last school year. So it was 20-some classrooms, if you estimate
That's
about
a lot.
It is a lot. And this year, school year so far, we have 537 kids who've either received bundles or are in the process. We've got about 100 in hand right now that we're preparing. And we've got another 100 or two that we have to get done before the end of the school year. It's very exciting.
It just makes my heart warm and fuzzy.
And the photographs of the kids opening their books, the expressions on their faces, they're overjoyed. They are subjects that are important to the
Right.
to the child. So if, hunting and fishing is a big deal in your family, you don't see a lot of hunting and fishing books in most of the sort of standard book selections that you order off the shelf, but we shop at the West Virginia Book Company. We shop
Yeah.
where we find solid books that are about the subjects the kids are
So
interested
I'm going to
in.
ask you a tricky, maybe
Okay.
controversial statement, question.
Okay.
iPad or hardback, paperback?
Oh, it's not controversial to us. It's not controversial to us.
Me either, but I know where I
Okay,
stand.
so we all use our technology. We have to use our technology. But there is actual research. The research I'm most familiar with is by a person named Dr. John S. Hutton, who you can Google. He's been written about in the New York Times. He came to West Virginia a few years ago. I was fortunate enough to hear him speak. And paper books are better. And the younger you are, the more solid the research is. Paper books. We don't know exactly what's going on with older kids and adults about reading on screens, but there are a couple of really interesting books about it. Read or Come Home is one by Marianne Wolfe. There's an older book called The Shallows, which is also about our devices and what they're doing to our brains and sort of changing how our brains work. You ever get those phantom sensations in your pocket? You think your phone is buzzing, and it turns
all
out
the
it
time.
isn't?
All the time.
Yeah, there's something going on with your nervous system there.
But I like the way a book feels, the way it smells. It's all my senses all at one time.
Dr. Hutton has actually done functional MRI scans on preschoolers and compared what happens in their brains when they're being read a paper picture book versus an audio book versus an animated app.
Wow. Our time is running out,
Okay.
and I know that we need to talk about something that is coming up in the Read Aloud world, and that is Read-a-Palooza.
Oh, thank you so much for bringing that up. This is our big fundraiser for the year.
And it is on April 3rd.
April 3rd, which is a Thursday. It's after work, 5:30 to 7:30. It'll be in the Irma Bird Gallery at the University of Charleston.
Beautiful
One of
setting.
the most beautiful rooms in town.
And so tickets are available on your website.
Correct.
And that is readaloudwestvirginia.org. If you can't access the website, they could call your office, and that is 304-345-5212.
Perfect.
Get tickets.
Sponsorships are also available.
There you go.
We live on corporate sponsorships, individual donations, ticket sales, grants. This is how we do all this.
And that's what makes it happen. That's what supplies the book bundles and all the feels for all the kids.
Yes.
Dawn, thank you so much for joining us
Well,
today.
thank you for having me.
Thank you guys for being with us. This has been Community Connections, brought to you by the Greater Kanawha Valley Foundation. We'll see you next time.